Applied Conservation Biology: The Decline of Bees by Lauren Allen. Since the late 1990s, beekeepers around the globe have observed the mysterious and sudden disappearance of bees, and they've reported unusually high rates of decline in the honeybee colonies. Bee disappearances are unheard of. Ever since beekeepers have maintained colonies, they've been plagued by bee diseases, deaths, and disasters. Beekeepers can also normally expect to lose up to 15% of their bees every winter. However, for the past 10 years, beekeepers primarily in the United States and Europe have reported beehive losses of 30% or higher, which is substantially higher than what's considered normal. 1 in 4 bee species in the United States is also at the risk of extinction. Climate change refers to the rise in the average global temperature, and this is due to an increase in the concentration of atmospheric greenhouse gases, which results in numerous climatic shifts and impacts around the globe. When the amount of these gases in the atmosphere is stable, the effect is beneficial. However, human activity, such as burning fossil fuels and deforestation, is increasing the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which is causing warmer temperatures and climate change. The changing temperature and weather conditions due to climate change has driven the decline of bees. This is because it has restricted the area where they can survive, and they struggle to adapt to these changing conditions. Due to the warming of the climate, flowers have started to bloom earlier in the spring, which has created a mismatch in seasonal timing between when the flowers produce pollen and when the bees are ready to feed on the pollen. A mismatch of just as little as 3 to 6 days can negatively affect the health of bees, which makes them less likely to reproduce, and they're more susceptible to being harmed by parasites and predators. A parasite is an organism that lives on or in another organism, the host, while it receives nutritive benefit while decreasing the fitness of the host, which remains alive. The effects of parasites range from slightly weakening their host to totally debilitating or killing them over time. The varroa mite is an external parasite that weakens bees by sucking the hemolymph, aka the blood, from its host, and it transmits bee pathogens. This parasite affects the queen's ability to reproduce, which in turn negatively impacts the survival of the hive. At high infestation rates, the mites overwhelm and kill the host colony. The monoculture farming method involves the repeated planting of one type of crop on the same field. Monoculture can be very efficient because it can yield a large supply of a single crop, and growing only one type of crop requires the practical experience and knowledge on how to cultivate that single crop alone. Industrial monoculture, however, has detrimental effects on the health of bees. For example, having only one type of pollen as a food source can lead to nutrient deficiencies in the bees. Think of it as the equivalent of us eating only one food group. A lot of the commonly grown monoculture crops, such as wheat and corn, also don't provide for the nectar or pollen needs of bees. Bees are keystone species that ensure the continued reproduction and survival of plants and organisms that depend on those plants for survival. If they continue to decline, this would not only have a massive effect on the crops that feed us, but this would also have an effect on the plants that bees pollinate, as well as the herbivores that depend on those plants. The populations of species such as badgers, spiders, foxes, and field mice that are predators of bees would also be negatively impacted. The entire ecosystem would be disrupted, and the insects, the native plant and wildflower species, and the insect-eating bird species found at Maryville could decline as a result. In order to combat the decline, Maryville could stop deforestation. Trees are essential to their habitat because leaves and resin provide nesting material for the bees, and they use their natural wood cavities for shelter. Maryville could also plant a native plant garden consisting of native Missouri plants, such as the bee balm, the New England aster, and the purple coneflower.